The Ministry of Education has begun a program for the reorganisation of secondary schools designed to increase participation in the final years of secondary schooling. In this program, we'll be looking at some aspects of these changes and in particular at the school structures which incorporate senior campuses. Kevin Collins is the General Manager of the Schools Division for the Ministry of Education. Kevin, what factors are influencing the changing government policy in this area?
It's all contained in the two reports that you have there, Trevor. The first is the Blackburn report, which calls for a higher level of general education for all young Victorians for both human and social reasons. The second report, Victoria the Next Decade, is the government's economic strategy, and it makes quite clear that the school system has a very important role to play in determining the preconditions for economic growth.
So what is the Ministry of Education's response to those factors?
Well, the first consequence is that more young people must stay at school longer in order to gain the broad general education they require for their future growth and development. And we aim to achieve a target of 70% of students staying at school to enter Year 12 studies by 1995. Now, in order to achieve that, three major developments are taking place in the education system right at the present time. In the first place, the Victorian Certificate of Education is being developed and will be introduced to Year 11 students in 1989, and that will provide the broad general education that is required. Secondly, the administration of education is being streamlined in order to achieve a greater degree of coordination between the sectors of education, and secondly, to provide more devolution to schools, who in fact will be carrying the responsibility for these changes. And finally, schools are being reorganised so that they might better be able to deliver the broad general education that is required.
And of course it's that reorganisation that's the topic for this program. Bendigo Senior High School is a senior high school, of course, located in the provincial city of Bendigo. It has over 1,000 students at years 11 and 12. Bendigo High School draws the majority of its students from 3 years 7 to 10 high schools within the Bendigo urban area: Eagle Hawk High School, Golden Square High School and Flora Hill High School. But it also attracts students from Kangaroo Flat Technical School, White Hills Technical School and other secondary schools in the area. The transition to a senior high school at Bendigo commenced in 1976 and followed more than 2 years of planning and negotiation involving the staff and parents of the schools involved. The school offers a broad curriculum to Year 11 and 12 students. At Year 11, over 60 subject-based courses are offered, including some semester courses. At Year 12, a wide range of Group 1 higher school certificate courses are offered, 8 Group 2 subjects and 2 VCAB approved study structure courses, STC and Business Studies. Here from Bendigo High School are students Fiona Bourne and Glenn Clark, School Counsellor Peter Unmack and School Principal John Neal. John, how is the senior campus currently organised and what advantages do you see in that arrangement?
Well, although we have over 1,000 students on the campus, it's a remarkably homogeneous population for a school, and this naturally has some advantages. We are organised basically on year levels, the 2-year levels, but we do have small groups of 15 students for pastoral care purposes. The timetable is based on a line situation, which means that the subjects and the courses can be combined in practically any way that a student chooses. The advantages of the senior campus after 10 years operation are fairly clear to us. We would say that the students themselves develop very readily a sense of responsibility for their work. We think that there is a more relaxed teacher-student relationship. And I think the program is so flexible because of the numbers of students involved that changes in their programs can be brought about quite easily.
With the proposed changes, with the introduction of the Victorian Certificate of Education in 1989, will they be easy to accommodate, do you think?
Well, yes, I think they would be fairly easy to accommodate. As I've already indicated, we have a homogeneous population, and this will be stressed even more with the new VCE because it is a 2-year certificate, and all of the students on the campus will be undertaking VCE. This doesn't mean that the year levels will disappear. They will retain their significance because semesters 1 and 2 will differ in some respects from semesters 3 and 4. But generally speaking, the transition to a new VCE should be a relatively easy one for us.
Right. Peter, many communities are looking at reorganising their schools and they may be considering establishing senior campuses. From a parent's point of view, is the senior campus a good model for other communities to follow?
Yes, Trevor, I believe that it is. I feel that it gives the students the transition between their junior years and perhaps going on to tertiary education. It's a good staging point for them. It does impose a discipline of self-reliance on themselves, organisation and all those sorts of things, so I feel it does fulfil all the needs.
Has it met the needs of your children?
I've got 3 children who've been in the system or been through it, and I feel it has. They've been able to accommodate to the change in the year and to fit themselves out for their further schooling.
Most people would be aware that government policy is to see more students retained and completing years 11 and 12 of schooling. Do you think that a senior secondary campus in Bendigo has helped see more students go through and complete their 12 years of schooling?
I believe so. I feel that the students coming from the junior schools are looking forward to going to the senior high school, and the change in discipline attitudes, the looking at them more as people rather than as a group of students in a small class, and I think this has helped them considerably. And so that would be a factor to keep them at school. They enjoy it, so therefore they tend to stay on longer.
What about the community attitudes to students staying on to years 11 and 12? Has that changed as a result?
I think the community is looking for the children to get higher education where possible, and this gives them, of course, better job prospects. And if you look at advertisements, they're looking for these qualifications, so the community is endorsing, I'd say, the policy of keeping students at school.
Fiona and Glenn, this is your chance to ignore the fact that your principal's here and tell us the truth behind it. What's it like going to a senior school?
Oh, it's very good. I thoroughly enjoy being at school.
Were you worried about moving from a year 10 school to a senior campus?
No, both Glenn and I were looking forward to it. It was definitely something different.
Well, you've mentioned it. What were the differences that you found?
Well, certainly differences I found was going from a technical school to a high school out of the uniform was one thing, and also the way that the teachers saw you more as a person and you can relate to them on the same line. Like with some teachers you're able to you have nicknames for them, or you call them by their first names in some cases, as they're mainly very friendly actually, surprising for a teacher.
So what advantages do you see then in going to a senior campus?
It's more relaxed. You're considered more an equal than you are at high school, and the onus is more on you to pass your subject. You're given free study lines, and if you work in them you get along really well, and if you don't, well, that's your problem.
Fiona, Glenn, Peter and John, thanks for being with us on TV Ed. Kurani College is a newly established multi-campus secondary college located in the Latrobe Valley. The college has 4 campuses making up the total college complex. 3 of the campuses are located in the city of Morwell, and the 4th campus is at Churchill, some 11 kilometres to the south. 3 of the campuses, Morwell Heights, Morwell and Churchill, are to be developed as years 7 to 10 campuses, and the Maryvale campus is to be developed as the years 11 and 12 campus. Kurani College commenced as a multi-campus secondary college at the start of 1987 and currently has over 1,900 students at its 4 locations. The college was developed through the amalgamation of 4 previously separate schools: Morwell High School, Maryvale High School, Morwell Technical School and Churchill Post-Primary School. Here from Kurani College are Acting Principal Keith Brownbill, School Counsellor Joan Woodruff, Curriculum Consultant Andrew Blair and School Counsellor Neil Smith. Welcome to TV Ed. Keith, why did the Morwell community decide to organise its schools into a complex of 3 years 7 to 10 schools and then a senior campus?
We decided that we could get the best results if we combined the talents of all the 4 schools, combine them into one, stress the continuity of education and make sure that we used our resources, both personnel and material, to the very best advantage. We believe that by doing this we can make sure that the very best practices that exist in any one of the campuses can become general over the lot. We believe that it gives staff the opportunity to teach in both junior and senior campuses, and indeed to teach in more than one campus at the same time. For example, one day in one campus, another day in another. In this way, the great talents that exist in a school which has over 160 teachers can be used to the very best advantage.
How was agreement about that arrangement reached?
Well, with great difficulty, and it took us a great time, but in the long run, we believe that because of the consultative process we went through, we're all the stronger for it. The ministry, I should add, and the previous minister, Mr. Fordham, gave us a great deal of help. They said that we needed to obtain agreement before they would give us any support. They've given us, I might add, a great deal of support and encouragement. We've had staff meetings ad nauseum almost. We've had public meetings, we've had committees, and generally we've made every effort to see that all people understood what we were doing and supported it. I might add too that the teacher unions have been very supportive so far, and we've worked in significant harmony with them. Now, we think that what we've got is an excellent model, and it stresses the continuity of education from the very earliest stages right through to HSC.
Joan, you're the president of the school council. Obviously, establishing a senior campus, it can be seen as a major change and reorganisation in the schools involved. How did you feel when the idea was first being explored?
Well, I felt very positive about the reorganisations of the schools, and in particular the creation of a senior campus. It really just made sense to combine the resources of the 4 schools, and hopefully that will lead to a greater variety of options and courses which will be more relevant to students' lives. Previously, I think the schools were able to offer a limited curriculum, and we had some quite ludicrous situations where, for example, 2 students might be studying physics on one campus and 5 on another. The senior school will be able to provide a broad-based curriculum which will allow for academic and vocational and practical studies, and will allow a degree of specialisation. I think that it will also allow a greater say by the community in the content, and also it will offer a more adult atmosphere, which hopefully will mean that more students will stay on to complete the years 11 and 12 schooling, and also entice adults back, which is very important too.
We may have a chance to talk about that a bit later. What were your main concerns when the reorganisation was first being explored, and how were those concerns dealt with?
Well, I think one of the concerns from the community's point of view was that it might have been seen as a high school takeover. Certainly there was a large percentage of the population that felt quite threatened by this, and that was really alleviated by continual consultation, reassurance, and also by inviting those people to participate in curriculum development. And if they're involved, it's less likely to be fears. I think the word change really threatens people. Other concerns really related to the organisational and delay. I think the longer the delay, the more concerned parents became. Budget constraints, the fact that we didn't really know what our budget was going to be, meant that we had to work on 3 or 4 different scenarios. Of course, we do know that now, and plans are well underway. Staffing issues were, I think, the other main concern. The increased administration, the lack of an industrial agreement, those are still ongoing concerns. There isn't an industrial agreement that covers schools such as ours. That's being worked on. We were very grateful to the Ministry for providing 2 curriculum consultants to make our life a bit easier. And there's continual liaison with the Ministry to try and resolve those issues. We also have a dearth, and I think this is probably a statewide trend, of maths science teachers in our area, and that is a real and ongoing concern.
Andrew, you're the curriculum coordinator, as I said earlier. With the college consisting of 3 junior and 1 senior campuses, how are those 4 areas going to work together in developing curriculum programs?
Trevor, I think it's most important to understand that Kurani is a curriculum-driven change, and so therefore curriculum is, I guess, uppermost in everyone's minds. Certainly there is a need for a curriculum policy which has been developed by the college And that really provides the structure for change. Within that policy, there are a range of working groups, too numerous to mention. Meetings really are the go. And those groups work continually to provide input to a college curriculum committee, which then make recommendations to council. An important element of these working parties is that they are represented by all campuses. All campuses have an equal say, and we are attempting very much to involve the community in the curriculum decision making. For example, a very key question in terms of the college is the assessment, reporting and credentialling one. We're undertaking a community-wide survey to try and reach agreement over that question so that curriculum can be developed in line with assessment processes that are in the spirit of ministerial papers. I think also we've been fortunate to have a range of grants from Participation and Equity, from School Improvement Plan, which have enabled specific areas of interest, whether they be technology studies or Joan mentioned the question of adult returnees and access, and all those things are being worked on by a very, very broad group of people in a collaborative way. But I would add very hastily that in fact it is taking its toll. Meetings really occur at every hour of the day, and people are really getting, in some cases, pretty burnt out by the whole process. Yeah. But we think it's really worth going for, because the curriculum that will be on offer will certainly advantage our kids.
Neil, everyone, I think it's fair to say, has made the point that the change is an ongoing process and the reorganisation doesn't happen overnight. How is the planning you're involved with progressing so far?
Well, we've, as Keith mentioned, gone through the discussion and concept development stages, and then we arrived at the memorandum of understanding, and now we're at the situation where the new interim council's in place. From there, we've moved and established strong subcommittees that have been spoken of already. These are powerful groups that are working through the various facets of finance, facilities, student issues, welfare. Another initiative that an administrative committee's been set up, and that's programmed to meet at least a minimum of once a fortnight. There's other processes that we've gone through, as the selection of principal, business manager. That's in place, and student issues and involvement is actively encouraged. We've to the extent that, an example there, that we're having a group of students go over to Tasmania on a study tour to observe and exchange views with the Tasmanian students or their counterparts. To the future, we have to ensure that we've got and build strong community involvement, and especially at the campus level in their campus subcommittees and management committees. They have got to be a real input to the college as a whole in the policy area. Other processes that continually that we've got is the self-examination and criticism and things like in-service days, where the whole school community can get there and discuss issues, build this understanding that is required for such a change as this. And then in the final phases, we've always got to develop cooperatively using innovation and initiative to make sure that we constantly evolving or changing as our educational environment unravels or expands.
Joan, I was just thinking, the school council really took on a mammoth task with reorganising 4 schools into 4 campuses with one school structure over that. If you had to go through it again, what are the main points that you've learnt from your reorganisation exercise so far that would constitute good advice to other communities around Victoria who are considering the same sorts of changes?
Right. Well, firstly, I think I'd be having a good look at the demography and the geography of the region where that's proposed and to see whether that's feasible. And certainly we had to do a lot of that. Secondly, I think that this operation might not be right for some communities, and I believe it should never be imposed on communities, that there has to be a commitment to it for it to work. It's taken a very, very long time, and I'd suggest that in the interests of being able to be a bit more efficient and in the interests of, I suppose, allaying some of those concerns that simply did arise because of delays and uncertainties, that other schools perhaps contact us or other groups and we could give them the advice to shortcut some of that.
Was it worth it?
Oh, it's worth it. Yes, it's definitely worth it. All the reasons are still there. They're still very valid. They're very good.
Joan, Keith, Andrew and Neil, thanks very much for coming in from the Latrobe Valley to join us on TV Ed. And until next time, we'll see you then. Victorian schools can obtain a copy of this program by sending a blank cassette and a dubbing request form to the Videotape Dubbing Service, Curriculum Branch, 234 Queensbury Street in Carlton, 3053. Victorian School Inquiries, telephone 03 341 4421. Interstate School Inquiries, phone 03 628 2113.